Roads? It's the Ernest Hancock Show. Where we're going, there aren't any roads.
Here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, from the beautiful studios of Freedoms of the Nest, freedomsphoenix.com at the farm, where we're getting ready. You know, you got chickens. Yeah, you need to get some chickens, man. Things are getting bad. Well, some people know what's going on more than others, and we are very honored to have Melvin Goodman. He's senior fellow at the Center for International Policy, wrote the book Failure of Intelligence, The Decline and Fall of the CIA, right before, this came out before the Obama administration, and he's sharing with us his perspective that things didn't get a whole lot better, but you're saying that Obama is reluctant to take on the Pentagon. Well, first we got to, define a lot of that. What's the Pentagon? What are you talking about? The, military industrial, we rule you, power central order of, and take on, kind of define what you would see as needs to be take on and how would you take it on. And Obama, is it an individual or is there a group, a competing power, or are they the same people? You got to help me out with that.
Okay, when I talk about taking on the military, I mean it in the classic Eisenhower sense of the farewell address of 1961, 50 years ago, and that is the military-industrial congressional complex, which has such a vital role in American society and American policymaking, and it's gotten worse. They've attracted more power over the years, and for a Democratic president to try to take that on, taking it on would mean reducing their budget, which is the only way you're going to get real change at the Pentagon. We're still buying Cold War systems 20 years after the Soviet Union collapsed. So that's what I mean about taking it on. Willingness to do real reform. Now, when he kept Bob Gates as Secretary of Defense, who was George Bush's Secretary of Defense, it was clear that he was intimidated by the military, didn't want to raise any hackles by bringing in a real reformer who might change things and might even reduce the budget, which frankly our deficit situation and our debt situation really requires. And by replacing him with someone as weak as Leon Panetta, obviously there's going to be no change. But Obama did something that was even worse. In 2009, he put military people into civilian positions. He put a retired Marine general in as national security advisor. That man was in way over his head. That's not a position for a military officer unless you have a very rare one like Colin Powell, who served for Ronald Reagan. But remember, Ronald Reagan was desperate. He had about 6 national security advisors in 8 years. It's just not a military position. Then the intelligence czar, he turned again to a military person. Ambassador to Saudi Arabia, a retired general. The ambassador to Afghanistan, a retired general. And now the CIA, which should be a civilian organization, an active duty 4-star general. Now, the problem with the intelligence community, and I'm quite familiar with this, is that it's been militarized. So if you look at the $80 billion intelligence budget, 80 to 85% of that is controlled by the Pentagon, by the military, and 80 to 85% of the personnel really report to the military or to the Pentagon. And this is not the way you get your best intelligence. This is not the way you get strategic intelligence. The military has enough trouble thinking outside the box, and in this top-down environment that they're used to operating in, they're not used to contrarian, dissenting analysts saying to very important people, well, you don't know what you're talking about because this is what the evidence says. So Obama clearly doesn't want to do that. He calls the budget for defense sacrosanct, which was a huge mistake given the economic problems we face. And when you look at the money we have wasted in 2 countries that are essentially insignificant for U.S. interests, that would be Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, fortunately, we appear to be getting out of Iraq, but Secretary of Defense was allowed to say that if the Iraqis want us to continue there, we'll go beyond the deadline of the end of this year. And Obama can also be blamed for 2 troop increases in Afghanistan in a country that has no strategic significance whatsoever for the United States. If we were trying to stop al-Qaeda, why in the world would you go into Afghanistan where there are very few al-Qaeda operatives?
Why?
Leon Panetta says there are fewer than 100. David Petraeus says there are fewer than 50. Well, if you look at what we've put into Afghanistan, we're paying about $1 billion for every so-called al-Qaeda operative, when al-Qaeda barely exists as an organization anymore.
So why are we there?
Well, we're there for a very simple reason. This was as part of the al-Qaeda operation. It was to make sure that the Taliban government never comes back into Kabul. The problem with that is our so-called ally, Pakistan, which of course is not an ally, is trying to get the Taliban back into Kabul. So here we are working.
Well, again, I'm going to have
Excuse me, let me finish. Here we are working supposedly together when these two countries have two very different objectives.
So my question again, and I got a whole series of these, and they're the same question. Why? Why then are we in Afghanistan? What is the real reason? I mean, Osama's gone. Now, can I stop taking my shoes off at the airport? Can we pull out of Afghanistan? Are we done now? But no, we're not. And why?
Well, the why has to be seen in the context of how we got into Afghanistan in the first place. So you have to go back 10 years to October, November 2001. And the decision to go into Afghanistan then was a damn good one by George Bush, and he did it the right way. We only sent in about 450 CIA special operators and special forces from the military. That's all it took to get al-Qaeda out of Afghanistan and to get the Taliban out of Afghanistan. Then Bush did something that was really outrageous. He lied about Iraq. He lied about Saddam Hussein, and we went to war against Iraq, which was totally uncalled for. None of the accusations he made about Iraq were true. Now, if you want to say, why did he do that, then I would point to his vice president, Dick Cheney, who was interested in establishing Bush as a very powerful president. The way you create a powerful presidency, at least the easiest way, is to create a wartime president. This is a war that Dick Cheney wanted, and this was a war that George Bush was willing to fight because he was trying to prove to his father that not only can I get Saddam Hussein, which you didn't do, but I can get reelected, which you weren't able to accomplish. So for all these reasons, we end up in Iraq and Afghanistan. But when the mission was done, and here's where the problem sets in, it's time to leave. And I would argue that the mission was accomplished in December of 2001 when we got al-Qaeda out of Afghanistan. We chased them into Pakistan, making it a problem for Pakistan, not for the United States.
Okay, and you're the right person to ask this question. I'm as we look back, which is why I don't spend a whole lot of time on, the Osama thing. I wait a few weeks, it's all going to, mesh out anyway. And that's a good question for you right there. Do you think the news that comes out immediately after such an event is more accurate or less accurate than the news that comes out a few weeks after they have time to do whatever? I mean,
well, it's always less accurate, and particularly in situations involving force, because of what is known as the fog of war. And in the fog of war, those first few days, we never get anything right. So it's wrong to send someone like John Brennan, the Deputy National Security Advisor, before the cameras in a very mocking tone, who talked about a firefight with bin Laden, which there wasn't, to talk about his wife shielding him, which was a lie, to talk about bin Laden being armed, which he wasn't. So then the White House has to spend 24 hours to correct that. Then you get into a situation where you have very graphic and grotesque pictures of a dead bin Laden with his head blown off. The White House clearly does not want to release those pictures, and today announced that they wouldn't. But yesterday, the CIA director, who's supposed to be smart, supposed to be intelligent, he's running an intelligence agency, he's now taking over the Pentagon, says those pictures will be released. Now, I'm sure the White House is not thrilled with Leon Panetta making the statement that he made because, who's in charge here? Leon Panetta or the President of the United States? So in the first 24, 48 hours, there probably should be very little reporting. No attempt to make official statements when we don't have any authoritative statements.
Authoritative statements from Melvin Goodman. decades at the CIA. Now, here's a gentleman that's going to help us understand what's going on, because I've even held off even doing a lot of research, because it's all changes every day anyway. But now we have an opportunity to understand what's really happening from the perspective of someone that should know. We'll be right back here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, and our special guest, Melvin Goodman, author of Failure of Intelligence, The Decline and Fall of the CIA. We'll be right back.